Hey, 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 welcome to Avoiding the Quarantine 15. It is very weird to be on Zoom. I'm so used to to Facebook Lives that it feels very odd to be using Zoom, but I'm so pumped about this. So you guys know how this works. If you're new to Zoom, or you're just new to me being on Zoom, which is new for both of us. I mean, I'm on Zoom all the time, but not doing webinars. There is a chat section. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little speaking bubble and it says chat, and that will bring up a sidebar for you where you can see the conversation going on. Use that. You guys know if you've hung out with me before and you've done Facebook Lives, I love interaction. I love questions. That's the whole point of doing this live, is for me to answer your questions. So as you jump on right now, Robin asked, where are the emojis for this? So yeah, that's the downfall of Zoom, is that we miss all the fun emojis for for Facebook. But just as Robin just did, drop a comment. Let me know who's here. Let me know where you're listening from. And as I'm going, if you want me to dig deeper into something, if I gloss over something that you want me to expand on, if you want me to go back to something, if you have a question totally unrelated to what I'm talking about, drop it in the comments and I will keep an eye on everything. All right, Rhoda is from Tucson. So Rhoda, I'm guessing, are you a friend of Susan's? Because so I have a client who is from Tucson and has referred me to seemingly everyone in Tucson, Arizona. So I have a ton of clients from Tucson right now. Yes, welcome, Rhoda. Awesome. So yeah, so that client referred her mom to me, who has now referred a bunch of her friends. So I'm super pumped that you're here, and welcome to the Mind Strong family. Marie and the missus are here from Michigan. Awesome. I love it. So as you continue to jump on, I see there's a few of you coming, and we're expecting about 50 today. So we'll see how many make it. If you have to jump off for any reason, this will be emailed out. It's recording right now, so it will be emailed out as long as you signed up to be here, which all of you did. But if you can be here live, so you can ask me questions. That's the whole point of this. Leah, where are you from, Leah? Welcome, welcome. Awesome. Okay, so before we dive in, this is going to be a little different. If you have followed Mind Strong Fitness. So first of all, my name is Rachel. I'm the owner and head coach of Mind Strong Fitness, for those that are new here. If you follow Mind Strong Fitness, you know that I do a lot of lives, and in those lives, it's us talking. It's us having a conversation. So I was a teacher for over 15 years, and that is the basis of Mind Strong Fitness. I do not sell point systems and wraps and Rachel's Laws of Health and Fitness for a living. I am an educator at my core, and whatever field I'm in, that is always what I consider myself. So I'm here to teach you the truth of how this stuff works. Typically, that happens in the form of a conversation. So I'm talking to you, I'm teaching you, you guys are asking questions, we're on lives. This is more of a webinar format. So what's going to happen on today's call is, after I'm done yapping right now, I'm going to share my screen with you. And we're going to go through, this is such a terrible word. As a former teacher, I cringe at the word PowerPoint, because if you've ever taught before or worked in any kind of business setting, you know that PowerPoints are like, oh my God, it is not going to be that PowerPoint presentation where I'm just reading things off to you. But I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, because we're going to dig much deeper into nutrition today than we do on typical lives where we're having a general conversation. Not my Mrs. Miss. Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Mrs. Kamishki from, wow. Okay. I thought you meant Teresa was here. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Oh, and Mrs. K. I missed that K part, Marie. I got you now. Awesome. Okay. So first, before we jump into the bulk of what we're going to talk about today, couple things I want you to understand. One, this conversation came about because of what I've been hearing over and over again. These are wacky times, right? Like, what's going on right now is bonkers. My partner Amanda and I keep walking around saying, like, is this real? We feel like we're living in a zombie movie when you do venture out of the house once every 2 weeks and people are wearing masks, and it's crazy. And along with this complete upheaval of our lives comes this just out of our routine, right? It's so easy to get in our routine and stick to our goals when we're doing more or less the same thing every day. And then something of this proportion comes along. We've never had something of this proportion, but something comes up and just roots us, and suddenly we're scrambling. And now a lot of us are finding ourselves, all of us are finding ourselves at home all the time, bored sometimes. A lot of us are stressed. And what do we do during those times? We start eating, right? Eating is such a comfort because it gives you those automatic endorphins of feeling good, and all that blood rushes to your belly to digest, and it takes it out of your brain that's spiraling out. And it's so natural for food to become the comfort zone for us, especially when we're just stuck at home with nothing else to do. So the question that I keep hearing people ask is, how the hell am I supposed to take control of my nutrition when I'm just stuck at home all day? And it's a valid question, right? And we can talk about logistics like meal prepping and things to make you prepared. But to me, the best thing you can do to take control of your nutrition is to understand how it works, right? It's like saying, how do I know if a mechanic's ripping me off? Well, you can go to 4 different mechanics and get different price quotes, and that'll give you a ballpark. But the question still remains, like, what if they're all ripping you off? Like, you don't know. The best thing you could do in that situation is to get educated, is to learn about cars so you know exactly what needs to be done. Now, if you're like me, like, I don't really care about cars. I'd rather get ripped off once in a while when I have to. But for our sake of nutrition, which is a way more important subject because it's something we deal with every single day, and it is literally the fuel of our body, right? Cars run on electricity or gas. Our body runs on calories. This is maybe the most important relationship you have in your life, is the relationship you have with food. So when you learn how it works, because it is learnable, nutrition is a skill. Learning to knit is a skill. Learning to take control of your nutrition is a skill, and it's learnable, no matter how many times you've tried and quote unquote failed in the past. So the best thing you can do is learn how it works, is understand it, and then you're in complete control. So then when you're home and you're bored and you're snacking or you're stressed, you can still snack. You can still turn to food if you choose to, but your relationship is totally different. It's no more this guilt, love, hate relationship. It's, how do I want to fuel my body right now? Am I choosing to eat right now because I'm actually hungry, or do I need to go do something else? And that comes by getting educated. And that's what we're going to do today. So today we're splitting this into 4 sections. Okay, this webinar is probably going to take about an hour and a half. It depends how many questions people ask and how much you guys want me to dig deeper. As we go, it's going to get more intense and more intense. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about general truths of nutrition. Most programs out there, most diets, and a lot of people watching here and a lot of people that just follow my stuff in general, there's such a stigma around nutrition. And it's not your fault. And I don't say that in a cop-out way. I'm a huge believer in personal responsibility. But most programs out there are not designed to educate you. They're designed to tell you, do X, Y, and Z, and it'll work. And that's great. And sometimes they work. But most of us have experienced that they work temporarily. And then when we stop them, not only do we gain all the weight back, we gain more back because we didn't understand how it was working. We were just doing the blind follow. We were doing what they said. So when we stop, which eventually we will, then what do? Right? Then we just gain back the weight. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn nutrition truths. And I don't care if you're 70 or if you're 20 or if you're overweight or if you're underweight. It doesn't matter. There are truths about nutrition that apply to every human being on the face of this earth. So we're going to start there. We're going to talk a little deeper about why you don't need these diets, why cutting out carbs is not the answer, why cutting out fat is not the answer, why getting educated is literally the only thing you need to do this for the rest of your life. Then we're going to do something I don't normally do. And this is where, if you follow me before on Facebook, the only people who have really been introduced to this, is there anyone here who did reset with me? I'm looking at who's on here right now. And I think there are 1 or 2 people. If you did, yes, Robin did. You're one of the people I think did. If you did reset with me, we started to get into this towards the end. Otherwise, this is not something that I typically do, outside of my client coaching, but I wanted to give you guys something extra and something special. So at the end, we're going to dig deep. I'm going to teach you, no blindfolds about this. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do with my clients to set their macros. So the end of this, the third part of this, is going to be super in-depth. If it feels like too much, if you're like, okay, parts 1 and 2 were enough for me, like I got it, I'm going to start there, then awesome. Part 3 is very technical. So when we get there, I will warn you ahead of time, like, this is where we're going to get technical. If it's too much right now, walk away. Like, listen, if you want, go clean your house with me in the background. If you want to do the work and try the do-it-yourself method, do it. It's not something you have to learn to do, because a good coach will teach you this one-on-one. They'll do it for you, and then they'll teach you the process as they go. But I wanted to give you guys something extra in these crazy times, so I'm going to teach you that. At the end, you guys are getting first dibs on some. I'm so pumped about this. I'm doing a new, I'm not going to tell you about it yet, but you guys are going to get first dibs on the next thing I have coming up that nobody in the universe knows about yet. Even Amanda, she doesn't even know about it. Nobody knows about this. And you guys are going to get first dibs on that, so we'll talk about it at the end. Okay, yes, Robin says Reset was awesome. Reset was awesome. I had such a blast doing that group. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you. You should still be able to see me in the little corner. Oh, I've already messed this up. Okay. So are we on camera too? No, you are not on camera too. So the only thing, if you choose to share, the only thing that's going to be shared are your comments. When this goes out to the email list, the only thing that will show up is your comments. I will tell you that right now when I'm sharing your screen, I can't see your questions. So if you drop me a question and you're like, why isn't she answering me? That's why. I will check the questions when we're done with like the bulk of the presentation. But if you're afraid you're going to forget it, drop it now. Just a heads up that I won't be able to see it until I'm done sharing. All right, so today we're talking about avoiding the quarantine 15. I saw this meme going around that was calling it the quarantine 15. And I thought that was hilarious because like the freshman 15. How to take control of your nutrition during uncertain times. And that is the key to this. That is the answer to nutrition, not just during quarantine, anytime in your life. If you want to do this once and for all, it comes from getting educated. And that is my answer to everything in life. That is much bigger than nutrition. If you want sustainable change, the answer is to get educated, to learn how it works, and you will have the tools for life. Now, I was a middle school teacher, as I mentioned, for 15 plus years, so I have to use nerdy teacher terms like objectives and takeaways. We were talking about what fat loss comes down to. You will also be able to tell that I never use PowerPoints in my teaching because I just like to talk. So I'm putting this up there for my visual learners, but I'm not going to, I'm going to be going off on rants, as those of you who know me know this. My chair is super squeaky today. Sorry about that. So big picture, nutrition is the key to this. There's a saying that it says like you can't outwork a bad diet, and it's so true. When it comes to fat loss or gain, if you're underweight and you want to gain, everything we're saying applies. It's just flipped, but we're going to focus on fat loss because that's what most people are looking to do. The key is nutrition. The honest truth is you don't even need to work out to lose weight. It's good to. It's good for your health. It's good for your. It's great for your metabolism. But when it comes to fat loss, you can do it all with nutrition. That's why they say it's 80% of the game. Sometimes I go as far as to say it's 90% of the game. Nutrition is the key to doing this sustainably. It's where your energy comes from. It's where your health comes from. People who are on a ton of pills or have issues with their blood when they get blood taken or have all kinds of health issues, when you start getting your nutrition in check, that stuff, it is nuts how much it disappears. That's one of my favorite parts of what I do for a living is when I hear people say I went to the doctor today and got blood work done and holy crap, my X, Y, and Z is in check now. Like that's the stuff I love because that's life. That's the most important thing we have is our health. All right, here we go. Let's dive in. We are talking first and foremost, part one is about the truth about nutrition. This is true. Hear me now. This is true for everybody. This is math and science. This is not about how old you are. This is not about if you're male or female. This is not about, yeah, but I tried this or this or this. This is not about, well, I have a gluten intolerance. It does not matter whether we're talking about the Dalai Lama or you or me or your father or whoever. This is math and science, and these truths apply to every human being on the face of the earth. First thing we need to know is that fat loss is calories in versus calories out. Hard stop. And I could talk about this for hours, but that is not what we're going to focus on this webinar. Any point system you follow, any shake system you follow, any diet out there, what they are doing is putting you in what's called a caloric deficit. They're getting you to eat less calories than you burn in a day. How do I know that so confidently without knowing what diet you've done? Because it is literally the only way to lose fat. There's a million ways to do it, but the only way that our bodies can lose fat is to eat less calories than you burn in a day. And we're going to learn how to do that today. But anytime you've done a point system or eaten frozen meals or whatever, if you've lost weight, you were in a caloric deficit. It's just how they packaged it. It's just how they marketed it, but that's how it worked. Caloric surplus is the opposite. So if you're gaining weight, it means you're eating more calories than you burn. So when people say, I don't get it, I'm eating so healthy, but I'm not losing weight, it must be my age, it must be my metabolism. It's not. You can eat healthy all day long, but if you're eating healthy foods that result in more calories than you burn, you're gaining weight. And 99.99999% of the time, when people come to me with that concern of, I feel like I'm eating healthy and I'm not losing weight, they're shocked when they actually find out how much they're eating numbers wise, calories wise in a day. And it's fixed like that. It's shining the light of awareness. And we're going to talk about that a lot today. We have to shine the light of awareness on what we're eating. Diet is king or queen. I usually say queen. I don't know why I put king in here, but diet is queen. It is number one. You don't need those point systems. You don't need those pre-packaged meals. It's about getting educated. Now, if at the end of this, you say to me, well, listen, Rachel, I understand how this works, but it's just easier for me. I prefer to just buy into someone's system, then do it. Awesome. You have to find what works for you. But the truth is that we talked about this in the beginning, when you're blindly following someone else's system, it's going to stop at some point, right? At some point, you're going to get sick of their meals. You're going to go on vacation, not have access to them. You're going to not want to spend that much money on their meals. And if you're not fully understanding or putting into practice how this works, you're going to be right back to square one. So to me, the example I love to use is knitting. I don't know why, because I don't knit, but this is always the example I go to. When you learn to knit, there's two mindsets you can go about, and mindset is everything. Hashtag bigger life statement, mindset is everything. You can sit there and you're learning knit your first sweater and you suck at it and you have to keep unraveling things, blah, blah, blah. And in your head, you could be thinking, oh my God, this is so stupid. I could just pay $20 and get a stupid sweater. Why am I doing this? Right? Or you can sit there and think, oh man, this is pretty challenging. I don't even know what I'm doing with my hands. I don't know if this is how you knit. This is pretty challenging. But you know what? Once I know this skill, I can make anything. I can make presents for my family. I could knit all the sweaters I want. So let me dig deep. Let me learn how to do this. And I have the skill for life. And it's the same thing with nutrition. In the beginning, it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be a little bit aggravating to see those numbers on paper. It's going to be a little annoying tracking your food. But you give it about 2 or 3 weeks and you start locking this skill in, and you will be amazed. It will literally, and I don't say this lightly, it will literally transform your life. I cannot tell you how many people come to me and say, oh my, I feel like a new person. I feel like all those years of this love-hate relationship with food is out the window. I'm just in complete control. And to me, that is totally worth the learning curve. That's all it is. It's a couple-week learning curve, and you have this for life. So let's talk about macros and why you need them. So when we say macros, I'm going to get ahead of my slide again because I suck at PowerPoints. When we say macros, we're talking about your carbs, fat, protein. These are called your macronutrients, which we call macros. Any food you eat, if you flip it over, you look at the nutrition label, it's going to give you a whole bunch of information. For our purposes, the 3 that we're looking at are the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein. The way that I do nutrition with my clients, and the way we're going to get into in step 3 of today, is called macro tracking. So you're going to learn how to monitor, first how to figure out your numbers, then how to monitor how many grams of carbs, fat, and protein you're eating. We'll talk about this more at the end. This is a more detailed way of calorie counting. As we already talked about, calories are queen. So at the end of the day, if the only thing you focused on were calories, you would lose weight. But my favorite example for this is that's like saying, I want to be rich because I want to see a bunch of zeros on a computer screen. Like, no, that's not, you don't want to be rich because you want to log into your bank account and see a big number there. You want to be rich because, if you do want to be rich, because the feeling it brings, you want the security, you want the freedom to be able to do whatever you want. You want the endless possibilities that'll provide for you and the lack of stress and all the feelings that come along with it. And that's the same thing here. You don't want to just lose weight to step on a scale and see a number. Like, yeah, that's great. But you're not walking around sporting a t-shirt saying, I weigh this, this many pounds. You want the energy, you want the confidence, you want the feeling that comes with losing weight. And when we talk about energy, when we talk about the you that you're putting forth, what's fueling that is a healthy balance of carbs, fat, protein. So that's why we take these total calories and we get into what we call macro tracking. Now, read my lips. You need all 3 macros. Funny side story about this meme. So those of you that have followed me for a while know this, and if you're new here, you don't. My first book is coming out. We're looking at September-ish. And in the first draft, oh my God, writing a book, when I signed up with my book coach, the first thing she said to me was, you're about to find out why everyone says they want to write a book and very few do. And she was not wrong. It is, a friend of mine referred to it as similar to giving birth. Like when you're in the thick of it, you're like, I'm never doing this again. And then the end product feels so good that you're like, okay, I'll do it again. And that's 100% accurate of what this has been like. But anyway, the point of the story is I put a line in the first draft that said, let me be clear, like George Bush, read my lips clear. You need all 3 macros. And I had 8 test readers and only 2 of them understood the reference. So I had to take it out. So hopefully that, that reference wasn't lost on you guys. I thought that was funny. All right. So we're going to dig into, by the way, it's very weird being on a webinar instead of a live, because in the live I have interaction back, and it's kind of like teaching middle school when I would make jokes and I'd be the only one laughing. That's what this feels like. Okay, we're going to dive into all 3 macros. The thing you need to understand is that you need all 3 of them. The answer to losing weight is never cut out all carbs or go on a low-fat diet or any combination of those things. What we need to do is to learn how to eat these 3 macros in the correct portions for our body, which is what we're going to get to later. Carbs get the worst rap. We all know that. Low carb diets are the fad, and people think that carbs make you fat. And if there is one thing that I could stand from the mountaintops and shout to people, it is that carbs do not make you fat. Carbs are our body's main source of energy. When your body goes to produce energy, it produces something called ATP. That's the form of energy our body uses. The way that it produces energy is literally by going to carbs first. When you get into like the keto diet, what you're doing is you're putting your body into something called a state of ketosis. You are literally tricking your body. So it goes to look for carbs. It doesn't find what it wants. So then it produces something called ketones to use as energy instead. Now, I don't know about you, but I am pretty freaking amazed by the human body. Like my body can heal itself. It can function when I'm dead asleep. Like it can do crazy things that I don't even know it's doing. And the last thing it needs is little old me tricking it in an attempt to lose weight. Your body does not need to be tricked. It just needs to be fueled the way it was designed to fuel you. And the way that it was designed to be fueled is by eating carbs. Where'd my screen go? There we go. Fat is the other one that gets a bad rap, right? Low fat diets, low carb diets are all the rage. Fat is super important when it comes to things like hormone regulation and vitamin absorption. So if you're sitting there and you think you're eating healthy and you're eating lots of salads and eating all these good, we call them micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, but you're on a low fat diet, your body can't physically absorb all the vitamins that you're giving it. It leads to things like foggy brain. It almost, if you've ever been on a low fat diet, you might realize that some days you feel like you're hungover, right? Like your brain just feels foggy, and that's why. Your brain is 60% fat. So if you're not giving it healthy fats, if you're on a low fat diet, it is not going to function the way that it needs to be. Protein's the only one that doesn't get a bad rap. In fact, protein is almost a buzzword now, right? You see Oreos packed with protein. You're like, I'm not sure that's accurate. But it gets that rap for almost the wrong reasons. Yes, protein is key to helping us build muscle for our bones, for our cartilage, for our blood, for our enzymes, for our hormones, for all this stuff. But many people have taken that to believe, well, if I just drink a protein shake a day, I'm going to get muscles. And that's not how it works. One of the questions I get most often is, do I need to drink a protein shake? And my answer to that is, that's like you asking me, do I need to get a second job to buy a house? Like, I need a lot more information before I can answer that. What's your current job? How much do you make? How much does the house cost? Are there any gaps in between how much you make and how much the house costs that we need to fill in with the second job? And that's the same thing for protein, right? I can't tell you if you need a protein shake because I don't know how much protein you're eating. And if I haven't figured out your macros, I don't know how much protein you need. The protein shakes are called supplements for a reason. They supplement, they add to your diet. So if you're not getting enough protein in your diet, and diet here means how you eat in a day, not going on a diet. If you're not getting enough protein in your diet, then yeah, you might need to supplement with a protein powder. If you are, you might not need it. It's all about understanding your goals. And in case you forgot, Yoda is here to remind us that you need all 3 macros. All right, so the next logical question is, okay, I know I need a good proportion of carbs, fat, and protein. We're going to talk about how much in a few minutes. Where do I find them? The answer is any food out there. Okay, sorry, I keep realizing I'm looking at the little screen of myself instead of at the camera, so it probably looks weird to you guys. um, any food you eat, when you flip it over on the back of that nutrition label, there is, on the back of that item, there's a nutrition label, and it tells you carbs, fat, protein, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what you can start doing is checking out nutrition labels. If you have an app like MyFitnessPal, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes, you will see when you input a food like 4 ounces grilled chicken, it's going to show you the carbs, fat, and protein. It's going to show you the macros in there. Over time, one of the other things we learn to do when we track macros, and again, if you don't fully understand what tracking macros means, bear with me, we're gonna get there. What you're gonna start to learn is what's in your food. So you're gonna know that, sometimes people ask me, should I just eat egg whites instead of whole eggs? Well, the difference between egg whites is that you get all the protein with barely any fat. But if you're eating the egg yolk, you're getting the same protein, but you're also getting about 5 grams of fat. How do I know that? Because I used to eat a ton of eggs. And I've input them so many times in my app that I know what's in there. So as you do this more and more, you start to learn what's in your food. Again, this is learning a new skill. So in the beginning, you have no idea. Like if you were to ask me what's in a food that I don't eat very often, if you ask me what's in 3 Oreos, I have no idea. I would have to look it up in my app. But if you were to ask me, what's in the cereal I eat every morning, I could tell you like that because I just have input it so many times. So my point is, you'll start to learn what's in the food you eat consistently. And this is not about eating the same food every day, which we'll talk about a little later. But I have this guide. Some of you may have seen it before. If you were in Reset, you have this already. If you want a copy of this, shoot me an email, team@mindstrongfitness.com, and I will email this to you. This is not an exhaustive list. There are a million options of where to get your macros. These are just some solid go-tos. An interesting to notice on here, interesting thing. Foods like peanut butter and almond butter and other nut butters. This is to go back to our protein conversation about buzzwords. A lot of marketing companies have realized that people want protein. Protein is a buzzword right now. So they'll market things like peanut butter as a great source of protein. But what you start to realize as you get into more macro tracking is, let's say you input 2 tablespoons peanut butter into your app. Okay, now I'm getting a little more detailed, but bear with me. When you input those 2 tablespoons peanut butter, which is a serving, you'll see there's something like 14 grams of fat and anywhere from 6 to 9 grams of protein. That's a lot of fat and a decent amount of protein. If you were to put grilled chicken into your app, you would see that there's 2 grams of fat and something like 21 grams of protein. So is peanut butter really a great source of protein? No, it's a great source of fat that has some protein in it. But marketing companies know that people are scared of fat and they want protein. So they market it that way. And then there you are housing peanut butter thinking, oh, I'm being so good to my body. I'm eating all this protein. But in reality, you're getting this much protein and this much fat. And that's a great example of when we think we're eating healthy, but we're eating too many calories. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So if you want this guide, shoot me an email and I will send it to you later today. Okay, now here's where we're going to start to take another step. So by now we understand our macros, our carbs, our fat, our protein. We understand we need a balance of all 3. We don't know what a balance means yet. We're getting there. One of the questions one of the conversations I love to have is, well, if it's all about hitting my numbers, then in theory, I could hit my numbers eating Krispy Kremes, because I love Krispy Kremes, and Skittles and whatever else, because as long as I'm in a caloric deficit, I'll lose weight. And the answer, to the surprise of a lot of people, the answer is technically you could, right? If your macros are figured out, which we're getting to, that you can eat 150 grams of carbs a day, technically you could eat 150 grams of carbs in Krispy Kreme donuts and still lose weight. That is true. That is a truth of how our bodies learn that calories are calories and a deficit is a deficit. However, in addition to macronutrients, our carbs, fat, and protein, we have something called micronutrients. We're not as technical with these. Most people don't track them. Some people do. I don't. Most people don't. Your micronutrients very clearly are just your vitamins and your minerals. They're the healthy stuff. So while it is a truth that you can lose weight eating crap food all the time, It is not recommended because at some point your body will shut down. You'll experience all kinds of health issues and your body will start to shut down because you're not giving it vitamins and minerals. So the goal is to get healthy sources of carbs, fat, and protein the majority of the time while still allowing for those fun foods. And still allowing for those fun foods is a very important part of this. The thing that I love about macro tracking, and this will make more sense when we get into the how-to. The thing I love about macro tracking is there's no foods that are not allowed, right? If you've hung out with me, you know that I love Krispy Kreme donuts. Like I will not live a life that does not include the occasional Krispy Kreme donut. And I can have one. I'm not going to have it every day. That's not healthy in terms of micronutrients, in terms of vitamins and minerals. There's not much nutritional content there. But I can work a Krispy Kreme donut into my macros every now and then and still hit my goals. And what that does for us is it eliminates this whole binging pattern. Because what most of us do and what most diets do is we say, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this. And at some point we snap. And suddenly instead of having one donut, we have 6. Which I did before I learned about macros. I didn't have a Krispy Kreme donut in 5 years, and I snapped one day and I ate 6 in one sitting and got so sick. It was terrible. It ruined my vacation. But that's what we do. We say, no, 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 no. And our brain that hates restriction, our brain does not like restriction at all and will do anything to get out of the discomfort of restriction. It holds on as long as it can. And then at some point, our willpower runs out because relying on willpower is a crock of crap that I do not suggest. And then we cave and we binge and we overeat and we start all over again. So the beauty of macros is that it's all about hitting our numbers and we can eat whatever we want, making nutritious choices the majority of the time, still allowing for those fun foods. So what does it mean to make nutritious choices the majority of the time? In general, complex carbs are your go-tos. So these are things like brown or jasmine rice. We're not going to get into a full discussion of it, but white rice gets a bad rap. But when you compare brown rice and white rice, there's not a tremendous difference between the two. I personally choose to not get a lot of my carbs from rice because there's not a lot of nutritional value in any of them, but there's still a decent complex carb. Sweet potatoes, awesome. Sweet potatoes are probably my number 2 go-to in terms of complex carbs. Oatmeal is a great one. Lentils are a powerhouse. Lentils are one of those foods that have a lot of good complex carbs and some protein. They're a carb source. They're not primarily a protein source, but I am a huge fan. If you follow me on Instagram, you see my stories every day. I eat red or green lentil pasta basically every day of my life. Not because I have to, because with macros you can eat whatever you want, but because I choose to. Again, there's more of those listed on that sheet. So if you want to let me know. Limit simple carbs. That does not mean we never eat simple carbs. Again, white potatoes are one of those controversial foods. But mainly when we talk about simple carbs, we're talking about sugars. So anything that is high in sugar is considered a simple carb. In general, we want the bulk of our carbs to be complex carbs. We want to still allow for those simple carbs now and then. Quick side note, I'm not going to dive too much into this unless if you want me to talk about it more, drop it in the questions. Fruit is such a controversial topic because it straddles the line between complex and simple. It's a simple carb because of the sugar in it, but it has a lot of fiber in it. So that's why you hear all these diets saying, don't eat fruit, don't eat fruit. That is the biggest crock of crap. Eat fruit. Fruit is one of the most nutritious foods you can fill your body with. It also trains our body to crave natural sugar instead of processed sugar. Besides all the healthy goodness of fruit, what I love most about it is you can literally train your body to crave the sugar from fruit instead of craving processed fruit. So that's why it's controversial because of the simple carbs. But it is not a truth. Eat fruit. It is fantastic for you. Fats. Let's dive into what a healthy versus not as healthy fat is. In general, healthy fats are things like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado. Avocado is my number 1 go-to fat source. Nut butters are awesome. I'm a fan of almond butter. There's a brand called Nutzo, N-U-T-Z-O or N-U-T-T-Z-O, that literally the only ingredients are 8 different kinds of nuts just ground up together. That stuff is my jam. I love that stuff. Processed fats, again, it's not about never eating them. I love French fries. If I go out to eat, I'm probably having French fries. It's just a matter of how much we're having. There's not much nutritional value to them. So yeah, fit them in your macros, get the craving out of your system, but understand that you're not doing much for your body nutritionally, and they're not as what we call calorically dense. So they're not going to keep you full as long just because they're missing those micronutrients. So things like French fries and ice cream and cake and, you know, all the fun foods that we try to live off restriction, don't live off restriction. Fit them in. Just don't eat them all the time. And don't stay in a super low fat diet. Get those healthy fats in. We'll talk about portions in a second. And finally, there is protein. Now, the goal, as we talked about, we got into protein powder a little bit before. The goal is to get as much of your protein as possible from the actual foods you're eating, right? You can, I mean, in general, if we weren't talking about health, if we were just talking about fat loss, it wouldn't matter. You could drink protein powder all day long and never eat any food with protein and hit your goals. But our body's not going to run its best that way. We're not going to be healthy. We're going to run into health issues. The goal is to get as much of your protein as possible by eating whole foods. And by whole foods, I mean from the earth, natural whole foods. There's a bigger discussion here about being a carnivore, being a vegetarian, being a vegan. The short answer is it doesn't matter. I've done it always. I've been a vegetarian before. I've eaten meat before. I've been a vegan before. It doesn't matter. As long as you're getting your protein in, you will see results. You can build muscle as a vegan. You can build muscle eating meat. It doesn't matter. Protein is protein. And as long as we're getting it from a variety of whole food sources, you'll be good to go. And again, if you're not getting enough, so if you learn to track your macros and you see that you're low in protein, which is a very common issue that a lot of people have in the beginning, that's where you supplement. Supplements are a bigger discussion. There's a lot of crap on the market. I could do a whole webinar on protein shakes. The takeaway of that webinar would be this: read the nutrition label. Oh my goodness. I get like fired up about this stuff because there are companies out there charging $150 for a tub of what's not even protein powder. It's just genius marketing. It's greens and some protein, but they've put their label on it and you're paying $150 a month to buy it. Not you guys, because you're smarter than that now. You can get a $30 tub of protein powder that has 25 to 30 grams of protein, 0 to 1 or to 3 grams of carbs or fat, which is what you want in a protein powder. And it was $30. Or you can go spend $150 on this well-marketed tub and get 10 grams of protein. That's not a protein powder, but they make so much money off this because people don't know and they just trust them and they're blindly trusting them. And the companies honestly are taking advantage of it, and it fires me up. And I started a whole company to teach people not to do that. Oh, I just realized I can see your question. Can I see your questions? I'm scared to click on it. We're not going to do it. I'll save the questions for them. Okay. We'll talk more about quantities later. So now we're getting into step 3, and I'm going to pause here. In fact, I will check. Let me see if I can see. Oh, I can see questions. Okay. Oh, there's only one question, I think, unless I'm missing something. Adding more protein makes my body struggle to be regular. I struggle with that balance. Yes. Super important. Oh, it's working. Okay. Oh, I'm figuring this out now. Okay, I see questions on here. The thing with protein, it is a truth that when you increase your protein, it is normal to get backed up, to get constipated. The answer is to drink more water. It's a very simple fix. Protein has that effect if you're dehydrated. So as your protein increases, make sure your water intake increases and it won't be an issue anymore. Guaranteed. Okay, so I see there's there's a chat box and a Q&A box. Marie, what about cheese? Haha, Robin, this is your question. Robin and I had a conversation about cheese yesterday. So here's the answer on cheese. And this is a bigger discussion. Okay, here's the long and the short answer on cheese. Cheese is a fat source. It's like peanut butter in that it has a lot of fat and a little protein. If you love cheese, eat cheese. Fit it into your fat macros, but understand what you're getting out of it is fat with a little bit of protein. Now, bigger picture answer, and I'm going to elaborate on this a little more than I think Marie intended, but I'm going to go for it because Robin and I just had this conversation yesterday. Cheese and any kind of dairy does not have a lot of nutritional value. And that is a very controversial thing to say. I've gotten into very intense debates about this. It is a truth. Dairy back in the day, and I have a client who lives on a farm, and she argues with me about this, and she's right. It's a very different situation. If the cow is in your backyard and you're basically getting it from the cow to your mouth, like that's a different conversation. Most of us are not doing that. I'm not in my San Francisco apartment with my cow out on my patio producing my milk. The dairy that you and I get from the supermarket has been so processed that there is negative nutritional value left in it. So I've personally made the choice in the past year to cut out dairy. Now, I say that, and this is the conversation Rob and I had. I don't suggest, if you're new to macro tracking, I do not suggest you go from nothing, and I don't literally mean nothing, but doing a little bit of this to jumping full in. I'm going to track macros. I'm going to cut out dairy. I'm going to do this. It's too much, right? You guys that have hung out with me before know that I am a huge fan of momentum. I am all about taking baby steps and letting momentum propel you forward. So the simple act of getting your macros in check, I say simple act, but it's a learning curve. The act of getting your macros in check is going to make your body feel like, oh man, I feel good. What else can I do? What else can I do? And the conversation Robin and I had yesterday was, when it's time where you're ready for the next step, I am always a fan of going about it from a place of curiosity. And this is how I went about cutting out dairy. It was not, okay, no more dairy. I'm not allowed to eat dairy. It's not good for me. It's out. What I did instead was, I wonder how I'd feel if I switched from a whey protein powder to a vegan protein powder. So I did it for a week and I felt amazing. So the next week I was like, you know what? I eat a lot of Greek yogurt. I wonder what it would feel like if I cut that out for just a week, and what I'd feel like with 1 week, no Greek yogurt or whey protein powder. And I felt amazing. And it just became this organic process of, I wonder how I would feel if. And if I ever felt like, you know what, I'm going out to eat, I want to have some dairy, I want to have ice cream, like I did it. It was never about restriction. It was always from a place of curiosity. What about the non-dairy nut milks again? Those are great. It's like the protein powder conversation where there's a lot of crap on the market, so check the label. But I am a huge fan. Oat milk is my favorite. Oat milk to me is like candy. Hemp milk is decent too. Almond milk is good. You have to check the nutrition label. A lot of almond milk, they add a bunch of crap too. But in general, nut milk's awesome. Good to go. Okay, now, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna take the comments off my screen for a second, but I will jump back on in this part. We're gonna pause here. What we're about to get into is very nitty gritty. And if you're new to macros, I'm gonna show you which part I suggest starting with. I'm gonna show you which part you do not need to worry about. Okay, for a long time, for many years of having my business, I never taught this part in a group setting. It was always one-on-one because it can be super overwhelming, right? It's like an accountant showing you how to do your taxes. Like some of us are like, I don't care, just do them for me. That's why I hire you. And that's not an exact analogy, because when I work with you one-on-one, I teach you what I'm doing, but I don't teach you this nitty gritty. I don't show you all the math I'm about to show you. I more teach you the process organically. Like, here's what I did. Here's what I suggest you do moving forward. What I've learned is that some people like knowing the math. They like knowing how I got to that place. So that's why I'm showing you these next steps. I say that to say, if you're new to this and you're like, that is too much for me, don't let this next part overwhelm you. Okay. Just tell yourself, I don't need to know this, because you don't. You can always hire someone to do it for you and show you the process organically. If you're new to this, the only thing I suggest you do are these first 3 steps. That's it. That's all you need for right now. You're going to download a free macro tracking app. There's hundreds of them out there. My favorite is MyFitnessPal. Lose It is another good one. You're going to track your food for 1 full week. Okay. What tracking your food means is you're just going to eat as you normally eat. Don't try to change anything. Eat as you normally eat. Input your food for 1 full week. Don't try to do a major life overhaul. Don't try to impress yourself. It's super important that you be honest about how you typically eat. Input it for a week. At the end of the week, you're going to study your averages. So let's say you did it for a full 7 days. You're going to do some math. Some of the apps do this for you. They'll show you your weekly averages. You're going to look at your average amount of carbs, fat, and protein, and your total calories. Okay, your carbs, fat, and protein actually total up to your total calories, which we'll talk more about in a second. That's all you're going to do. Your step one, the most important step to change, is shining the light of awareness, right? I always say when an athlete is going to change something about their game, a quarterback's going to change their game. They don't change a thing until they watch hours and hours of videos of this themselves. Why? Because we have to shine the light of awareness first. We have to see what's really going on. Otherwise, we're just blindly guessing. You will be amazed. Like just reading that, you might be like, I don't really know what I'm going to get out of that because I don't know what these numbers mean. But you will know what these numbers mean. If you see on the app that you've been eating X number of calories every week, you know enough about this, even if you don't believe you do yet, to be like, whoa, okay, I did not realize I was eating that many calories in a day. And that's just step one. You can stop right there. Just shine the light of awareness and understand what's going on. Okay, what I'm about to teach you to do is what to do with that number. And there's two versions of what to do. One is if you just want to focus on calories, I'll show you how to do that. The one I suggest doing is taking it a step further of how to break down your macros. Okay, so here's what's coming up, and we're going to do this together. You might want to grab a notepad. You might want to just listen and do this later. Totally up to you how you do this. This average is going to become your starting point. And I'm going to give you an example. We're going to walk through these steps together. So don't worry about getting everything that I'm saying. This is an average. It's a snapshot, right? You eat every day of your life. You've been doing it for years and years. You'll continue to do it for years and years. This is a snapshot. It's an average of 1 week, which is nothing in the scheme of our lives, but it's giving us a starting place. What I suggest you do is you subtract a little bit from that number. Okay, and a little bit is a very relative term. And this is the part that's hard for people to grasp a lot of times. There is no right or wrong to this. If you were in Reset, I gave you the formula for what's called your TDEE formula. It figures out your baseline zero, the average number of calories you need to stay above or below, and it's very mathematical. The problem with doing it that way is this. Let's say you track your food for a week and you find out that you're eating 2,300 calories a day. Okay. And then you do the mathematical textbook way. You figure out what's your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, which is your baseline zero. And it says that you need to eat 1,400 calories a day to lose weight. Well, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much willpower you have. You are not going from 2,300 calories a day to 1,400 calories a day and sustaining it. You might rock it for like 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, but at some point you are going to be so miserable and so hungry that you're going to cave and you're going to binge. And your progress that went like this is going to go like this. And if you looked at it on a graph long term, you're not only going to lose less weight, you're probably going to gain more because you're going to give up and you're going to binge because you're so freaking hungry that you're going to outdo all the progress you just did. So instead, we find that you're at 2,300, you drop down to 2,100, 2,200, whatever feels comfortable and sustainable for you. And you stay there. And if you feel ready for more, then you drop a little more and you drop a little more. And what happens is we do this slow and steady, because slow progress is a billion times better than no progress. And we're talking about exponential results. If you're caving and binging and caving and binging, you are doing more harm than good. If you are losing weight slowly and consistently, over time, you're going to lose way more weight than you would the other way. So you find your averages, you put yourself a little bit below. Again, a little bit for you might mean 100 calories. You might be, you know what, this was just a rough week. I'm totally fine with taking 300 calories off there. It's going to take some trial and error. It's going to take some tweaking. It's a starting point. That gets you your calories. If the only thing you did was stay at that number, so if you found your average is 23, you're going to go down to 21. If all you want to do is focus on hitting 2,100 calories until that feels comfortable to drop more, do it. Okay, that is the most important step. Calories are queen. What we're about to do is, I call it the nerdy math. We're going to take those calories and we're going to break them down into your carbs, fat, protein. This is where we're going to get into a lot of math. This is where we're going to get nitty gritty, but we're going to go through it together, and I will continue to check questions. In fact, let me check in on questions right now. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, if you have questions, drop them. In fact, I think I can keep this up. Yes, I can keep this up. All right, so here's what we need to understand. The first thing we're going to figure out Marie says, love you, great job. I have to get back to work. Okay, awesome. And if you have to jump off, no worries, because I'm going to email this out to you guys. Robin, speaking from experience with low-cal and restrictive type diets, as well as craving binge, the daily state of being hungry is no fun. Learning and tracking macros, I haven't had this problem. 1,000%, yes. And that is the beauty of macros, is that there's no walking around being, it is not in our human nature to walk around miserable. Our human bodies are pleasure-seeking creatures. And if you are walking around hungry and miserable, you are relying on willpower. And science has proven that willpower is a limited resource. So then we get into this bigger conversation of mindset, where we try to go off willpower. It fails us at some point, which it's going to, because it's human nature. It's a limited resource. And then we take that to be truth with a capital T, that we suck at this and we're just not meant to ever be in shape and we're never going to be successful, and all the limiting beliefs. So the next time we go into a diet, we go in with this belief that we're going to fail before we even start. Like, this is the loop that we live in because we've been doing it based off restriction. And that's the part when I said earlier, it's not your fault. It's not. And that's not a cop-out. It's that you've been blindly following programs that are based off restriction and then taking them as a personal attack when they don't work, right? It's like getting in my car and the gas tank is on empty and I'm pushing the gas trying to make it go, and it's not going. And I'm saying to myself, I must be a really crappy driver. I can't get this car to go. Like, of course it's not going to go. That's not how it was designed to function. And it's the same thing here. We are not designed to function off willpower. We are not designed to function walking around miserable and hungry all the time, but we take it as a personal statement about ourselves when we're not successful. And that's the biggest thing macro tracking does, is it completely redefines your relationship with food. And it gives you that empowerment to know how to fuel your body the way it was designed to fuel. So we're going to start figuring out your numbers. And this is where there's some math involved. If it's overwhelming, don't do it. Get a coach, and a coach will do it with you, or just start with your numbers. But I'm going to show you the process that I use for my clients. I will put one little caveat to this. I've been doing this for years, right? So if your accountant is going to teach you how they're doing your taxes, there's going to be part of it where you're going to say, like, how did you know to even look for that? And the answer is going to be, well, I've just been doing this for years, right? There's an intuitive part to any profession that just comes from experience. And a lot of times the reason I've shied away, I'm being completely transparent, the reason I've shied away from sharing the actual process at times is because some of those questions, the answer is just, yeah, I just knew because I've done it for so long, right? Like, how do I know to put someone, if the range for protein we're about to learn is 0.8 to 1 gram per body weight pound, I don't always start people at 0.8. Sometimes I start them at 0.4. And the answer is, well, how do you know to start them there? And because I've been doing it for so long, like, I know where they need to be to get up to their goals. So there is part of this that is not going to be an exact science in the sense of where you start. But these are guidelines. This is to give you a ballpark of how this process works, okay? So the first thing we're going to start with is your protein. And we're going to start with your protein and your fat. We're going to save carbs for last. And the answer of why is because this is a more mathematical formula. To figure out your goal protein, and I'm purposely saying goal protein because you're not necessarily going to start here. You're going to take your body weight, your current body weight, and you're going to multiply it from anywhere from 0.8 to 1. So here's what that means. The example on the screen right now. If you weigh 130 pounds, your starting protein, your goal protein, sorry, not your starting, your goal protein is going to be anywhere between 104, which is 0.8 times 130, or 130 grams, which is 130 times 1, obviously. Now, the obvious questions that brings up is, how do I know? How do I know if I should be at 0.8 or 1 gram? And there's two answers to this. The first is, if you're super active, if you're working out a lot, your ultimate goal is to be more towards the 130 gram. If you don't work out, or you don't work out a lot, or you're just not used to eating a lot of protein, stay more towards the 0.8. That said, and this is where it gets into being super personal. This is why I'll never do one and done macros for people. When people say, can I just pay you to figure out my macros and send me on my way? Hell no, I will never do that, because these take tweaking, these take adjusting. Let's say you track your food for a week and you saw that you're currently eating an average of 60 grams of protein a day. It is not realistic in any world to think that you're going to jump from 60 grams of protein a day to 104 grams of protein a day and make it sustainable. You are going to be a miserable human being who is drinking protein powder 8 hours a day. So I would, if I saw you were averaging 60 grams of protein a day, that's where I'd start you. I'd start you like 60, 65, depending on what each day looked like. By the way, I don't even have my clients just send me the averages. I have them send me each day, because I'm not just looking at those averages. I'm looking at what each day looks like. So if I see that most days you are at like 40 to 50 grams of protein, but then some days you were at like 70 grams and it averaged out there, I'm looking at each day to see what's natural for you, to see what's normal. I am not going to set you at 104 grams of protein to start, because it is not going to be realistic for you. So this is where it takes time. It takes tweaking. It takes practice. If you see you're averaging 60 grams of protein, start there. Make a note in your journal that your ultimate goal is to get up to 104, but we're not jumping there. We're starting where you're at and we're slowly increasing. Okay, but that's how you would figure out your protein. You would start by taking your current body weight and multiplying it by anywhere from 0.8 to 1. Then we're going to move on to your fat. For your fat, you're also going to start with your current body weight. You're going to multiply it by anywhere from 0.3 to 0.45. Some coaches do this off height. So if you're shorter, they're going to put you more towards the 0.3. If you're taller, they're going to put you more towards the 0.45. I prefer to do this off, again, your averages. If you tend to eat more fat in a day, it is not realistic to cut that number in half, right? We need to meet you where you are, and then maybe we drop it over time, maybe we raise it over time, but it's about finding what works for you. So again, if you weigh 130 pounds, you would multiply your 130 pounds by 0.3, which is 39, or 0.45, which is 59 grams. So your ideal fat, your goal fat, is to be anywhere between 39 to 59 grams. Again, if we look at your averages and you're currently eating 80 grams of fat a day, there's no way in hell I'm dropping you down to 59 grams of fat. That's not going to be sustainable. I might take you to 75 grams and know that over time our goal is to drop that number. But this is we're talking about goal ranges. All right. If you guys have questions, or if I'm going too fast, drop them in here. Sorry, I'm checking the questions as I talk. If you want me to clarify any of this, let me know. If this is confusing you, don't listen. Okay. The takeaway is that you need all three, and that calories are king, and that you can hire a coach to do this stuff for you. This is just for people who want to get a little more in depth. Now, we save carbs for last for this reason. There is no set number of carbs that you need. Protein and fat we set based off your weight, as you just saw. The rest of your calories, and we're going to talk about what the rest means in a second. The rest of your calories are going to go to carbs. There are tons of coaches out there that do not do macros the way I'm doing them. This is one of those questions, like if you ask someone, is coconut oil good for me? You will go Google, is coconut oil good for me? You will find people who live and breathe. There's a book called The Coconut Oil Miracle that I've read, and it's a great book. And there are people who swear that it's not good for you. You will get every range of answers on the topic, is coconut oil good for you? The same is true when it comes to macro configurations. If you ask a coach, what % of my daily calories should be carb, fat, and protein, you will get a million different answers, and they will all swear that theirs is truth. This is how I do macros. This is what I use for myself. This is what I use for my clients. This is what I've had tons of success with. And I base this off the idea that my goal is to get my clients eating as many carbs as possible. And that's not just because carbs are delicious. It's because carbs are our body's primary source of energy. So to me, if I know that the way my body wants to be fueled, the way that I am going to fire up my energy, because to me, life is about energy. The you that shows up in this world is about the energy you put forth. Why the hell would I not want to train my body to eat as many carbs as possible? Plus, they're freaking delicious. Why would I not want them as much as possible? So I set my carbs and protein, I set my protein and fat according to the mathematical calculations. And then my ultimate goal is to train my body to eat as many carbs as possible so I have as much energy as possible. Part of that is also because I train hard, and that's where my energy in the gym comes from. But that is truth, whether or not you work out. So now we're going to take our nerdy math one step further. We're going to take the calories that are left, and we're going to see what that means about left, and we're going to break them down into carbs. Here's the first nerdy math we need to understand to do this. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. That's written on the screen for you to see here too. 1 gram of protein, 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs, 4 calories, 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. So fat is obviously more dense. It's more calorically dense than protein, and carbs is also why fat keeps you full longer because it takes longer to break down. So let's see what this means. Again, we're getting into the nitty gritty right now. If it's stressing you out, don't listen. Turn me off or put me on the background while you do play with your dog and do something more enjoyable. We're going to get into the last step, which is the most math of this. Let's say you figured out your weekly average right now is 1,800 calories. You tracked for a week, you looked at your averages, you're eating 1,800 calories. So you decide it's sustainable for you, and there's no right or wrong to this. It's sustainable for you to eat 1,600 calories a day. So that's where you set your calories. If all you did was eat 1,600 calories a day to start, awesome. Use your tracker, only focus on calories. That's an awesome start. But you decide you don't want to just be rich to see those zeros. You want to be rich for the feeling it gives you. You want to lose weight for the energy it gives you. So you know the next step is to apply some math and learn your macros. Now, you applied the math from the last page. You decided to set your protein at 104, and you decided to set your fat at 59 grams. Okay, if you remember from the last page, that was within the ranges that we talked about. We're going to take it one step further to figure out our carbs. We're going to apply the math we just talked about. So we're going to take your protein first. You set your protein at 104 grams. You're going to multiply 104 times 4. Why? Because 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So since you've set yourself a goal of 104 grams of protein, we multiply it by those 4 calories. We see that right now you are using up 416 calories for protein. Okay? We took our 104 grams of protein, we multiplied it by 4 because each gram of protein is 4 calories. Right now we are spending, I like to talk about macro tracking as spending. We are spending 416 calories on protein. We're going to do the same thing for our fat. We have 59 grams of fat. We know that 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So we are spending 531 calories on fat. You guys with me so far? Let me know if you need me to slow down. I've got the comments open. So we add those two numbers together. 416 plus 531. We have now spent, right now, we have spent 947 calories. We know our protein goals, we know our fat goals, and we have spent, of our 1,600 calories that we are going to spend in a day, we have spent 947 of them. So the last step is to take what's left and figure out our carbs. So our goal is to eat 1,600 calories a day. We're going to subtract the 947 that we've already spent between our carbs and between our fat and our protein. So I have added 416 plus 531. I've spent 947. I'm subtracting 1,600, my goal calories, minus 947, the calories I've already spent. That shows me I have 653 calories left to spend on carbs. If you need me to slow down, let me know. I have 653 calories left for carbs. So I have one last step to this puzzle. We know that 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. So all I have to do is take the 653 calories I have left and divide them by 4, because 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. That tells me that I have 163 grams of carbs that I can spend in a day. So this is how your personal macros would read. You have 104 grams of protein to eat every day. You have 59 grams of fat to eat every day. You have 163 grams of carbs to eat every day. This is where we talk about budgeting, right? And some of you have heard me use this analogy before, and it is the most important step to this, so I'm going to say it again. If I hand you a $100 bill and I say you can spend this $100 on whatever the hell you want, doesn't matter. The only rules are you can't save it, it doesn't roll over, you have to spend all 100 today. I don't care if you make 10 little purchases in the day. I don't care if you make one big purchase. I don't care if you split it up in half and make 2 purchases. It doesn't matter how many purchases you make in a day. It doesn't matter if you spend it all in the morning and are stingy the rest of the day. It doesn't matter if you spread it evenly throughout the day. It doesn't matter if you save it all day and spend it at night. It doesn't matter. As long as you spend all $100. That's how macro tracking works. You have, in this example, you have 104 grams of protein. You have 59 grams of fat. you have 163 grams of carbs. By the way, do not use these numbers. Don't just say, well, I'm going to use those. It's not going to work for you. If you want to know your numbers, either hire a coach or do the math we just did as a starting place, but don't just arbitrarily follow someone else's numbers. It's like trying to use the fob to my apartment to get into yours. It's not going to work. First thing we do is we go into our app. So if you were using MyFitnessPal, if you were using Lose It, you're going to input your goals. Your ultimate goal is to get within 2 to 3 grams of each of these macros each day. Right now, we've never done this before. We have no, like, if we've been eating blindly, we've been on the seafood diet, I see food, I eat it. It is not realistic to think that just setting goals is going to, that's it. Like, now I'm going to start eating 104 grams of protein perfectly. That's not how this works. You're going to eat breakfast. You're going to put it in your app. You're going to say, holy crap, I just used a lot of my fat macros for the day on breakfast alone. Am I okay with that? You have $100 to spend. Am I okay spending a lot of it on breakfast? If the answer is yes, then you'll just be stingier with your fat macros as the day goes on. But if the answer is no, I don't want to have to be stingy with my fat the rest of the day, then you take 10 more seconds, you look at what you ate for breakfast, you see, I don't know if I want to spend that much on eggs. Maybe tomorrow I can try different foods, and you play around with it. I call this the nerdy game of Tetris. We had nerdy math, now we have the nerdy game of Tetris, because it's all about making this fit. Since most of our food has a combination of carbs, fat, and protein in it, it's about learning how to tweak and adjust portion sizes and what food we eat until we ultimately hit our goals of each macro. I see a question popping up. So as I lose weight every few weeks, I need to continually tweak my numbers, correct? Awesome, awesome question. The answer is macros are never one and done. So yeah, if you figured out your fat by weighing 130 pounds, but now you weigh 120 pounds, then at some point your macros are going to adjust. What you want to be very cautious about is making too many changes too fast. Okay. And that's a bigger conversation that we're going to have well, we'll pause and have it now. This takes time. The number one reason, and I get so like adamant about this because I wish I would never do this because it's client coach confidentiality, but I wish my clients could hear the conversations that I'm having with each of them, because everyone feels the same way. It's not working fast enough. It's not working fast enough. Fat loss takes so much time. It is not, if all you're focused on is this arbitrary goal weight, I weigh 160, I want to weigh 140, you are setting yourself up for a lot of frustration because those 20 pounds are going to take a lot of time to reach. It is not about some arbitrary number. What's going to happen is when you go from 160 to 155, you're going to feel the effects of that before you see it on the scale. Okay, the scale, if I could eliminate the existence of scales, I would. Scales can fluctuate as much as 6 pounds overnight. I've literally seen the scale go up 6 pounds for myself overnight, and no human being on the face of the earth gained 6 pounds overnight. That is almost physically impossible to do. Your bathroom habits, your salt intake, your water weight, all these things go into the scale, and it's not indicative of what's happening. But in between that 160 to 155, you're going to feel your energy increase. You're going to feel your clothes fitting differently. People are going to start to say, something looks different about you. I don't know what it is. And that stuff is going to keep us going forward to continue the journey until one day you wake up and you even forgot that 140 was your goal weight because you've just been feeling so good along the path to get there. So that's the bigger rant. That was not the question asked. But the answer is yes, your macros will have to be tweaked and adjust as you go. What I say all that to say, it's more important that you're consistent than that you're constantly adjusting your numbers. Because what most people do when they try to do this on their own, which is why I didn't even teach the method for so long. Most people will do this for about a week and say, I don't see any difference. It's not working. I must not have gone low enough. So then they adjust their macros drastically and they drop them lower. And they're like, it's still not working. Let me be more aggressive. And they drop them lower. And next thing you know, you're right back to every other diet of trying to do too much too soon. And you're walking around hungry, you're walking around miserable, and you cave and you binge, and we're right back to square one. This takes time. I don't even do check-ins. I'm talking to my clients all day, every day, because they have unlimited access to me. But I don't do formal check-ins until week 3, because your body loves consistency. Your body responds with consistency. So the most important thing you can be doing in the beginning is focusing on the numbers that you set and working to get within those 2 to 3 grams. Now, if you've been consistent for, let's say, 3 weeks and you're starting to feel the results, there's no need to change right away, right? In 3 weeks, you're not losing massive amounts of weight. Chances are you'll still be in your range. The only time we start to really adjust is if you've plateaued, and plateaued means you've been super consistent, you were seeing progress and it stopped. If you're walking around hungry all day, which a lot of times is a good sign, it means your metabolism's fired up and you're ready for more, which I'll talk about in a second. Or if it's been 3 weeks of being super consistent and you haven't felt any changes. And I say felt on purpose because I don't care about the scale in the beginning. If it's been 3 weeks of hitting your macros within 2 to 3 grams and you don't feel a difference, then it might be time to adjust. Not what the scale says in the beginning, but how you're feeling. Now, side note, I'm going to go back to what I just said about hunger. Most people assume, and this is next level, this is where we get into the accountant saying, because I've been doing this for years. Most people assume when I set their numbers that we're only going down from there. And the opposite is true. With most of my clients, what we wind up doing is we set their numbers, and over our 8 weeks together, their numbers actually raise. And sometimes I even screenshot and I cross out their names and I ask permission before I post it on social media. But I screenshot the conversations I have because I've heard comments. I just had this conversation 2 days ago with a client saying, what is this voodoo magic you're doing? I'm eating more than I've ever eaten and I'm losing weight. Or I can't believe how much I'm eating and continuing to have to get new clothes because they're too loose on me. When you do this correctly, what we're doing is not only training you to eat the way your body was fueled, but we are training your metabolism. We're putting you in a deficit, but we're putting you in the high end of a deficit. And the more your body learns to process food, the more your metabolism fires up. And the more your metabolism fires up, the more that baseline zero gets raised. So we start doing this. We start chasing that baseline zero, which means you learn to eat more and more food while still losing weight. And that is one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get from clients. And I've been doing this for years. It still cracks me up that people are blown away by how we increase their numbers. They're especially carbs. If your carbs are 163, by the time we're done our 8 weeks together, you might be at 210 and you're continuing to lose weight while eating that much food. And it's like, that takes time, that takes consistency. The point is, to answer the question, yes, there's going to be some tweaking and adjusting to your macros. Better to be consistent with your numbers than to worry about that part. That part will come with time. Even if right now it's like, how will I know? The answer is kind of, you just will know. You'll know when you've been doing this consistently for weeks and weeks and weeks and hitting your numbers, you'll feel when it's time to do it. But what most people take that to mean is, I don't feel it working right away, it's time to change. And you will shoot yourself in the foot doing it that way. It is better to be consistent with the numbers you have than to jump to changing. Keep in mind also, there's a learning curve. It's going to take you a few weeks to be able to get within the 2 to 3 grams, right? You're not going to sit down and knit for the first time and knit your full sweater. It's the same thing here. There's a learning curve. It's going to take time. So these first couple of weeks won't count towards your consistency. It's going to take time to do this. The beautiful thing is, and I get so passionate about this thing because this is why I do this work. Like, workouts are cool. They're fun. I love teaching that stuff. This is the stuff that lights me up, because most of us have walked around in such an unhealthy relationship with food for our entire lives. Since we were old enough to comprehend what that means and to feel self-conscious and to feel guilt, we have been beating ourselves up about food, and it takes up so much mental energy. This, I shouldn't eat this, I shouldn't eat this, I can't believe I ate that, I'm such a this, I'm such a that, I'm never gonna, whatever, pick your poison, right? If you sat down, if you could listen to that voice in your head as an outsider, you would be shocked at how much of your day and your life and your energy is sucked into this unhealthy relationship with food. And the reason that I get so passionate about macros, I did not make up macros. This is not Rachel's Laws of Health and Fitness, but I have tried everything in the book for myself. And this is how you redefine your relationship with food. This will literally change your life, because your energy will increase, your confidence will increase, your health will increase. And most of all, the way you view food, I can't even say the sentence, the way you view food will totally, totally transform. And it is not a diet. It is not 8 weeks of Rachel's diet. It is 8 weeks of learning a skill. I say 8 weeks because that's how long my macro coaching is. It's 8 weeks of learning a skill, or however long it takes you, and then you have it for the rest of your life. It will completely transform your life by taking control of your nutrition, 1,000%. Okay, that was a lot of information. You guys doing okay? If you have questions, start dropping them because we're going to start wrapping up. But oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I get so excited when I've been working on something for months without saying it out loud. And you guys are going to be the first ones to hear this. So let's summarize before we get there. Fat loss, calories in versus calories out. That is a truth with a capital T. It doesn't, if you do it with shakes, if you do it with frozen meals, if you do it with macro tracking, it is all the same. It is all different versions of the same thing. It's like calling soda pop, calling it cola, calling it soda. It's different versions of the exact same thing. For my musician friends, I was a musician for years. They are enharmonic versions of themselves. They're the same thing packaged in a different way. Fat loss is calories in, calories out. That's it. You can blindly follow someone's system, or you can learn to do it eating the foods you love. One is obviously more sustainable than the other one. Your macros are your carbs, fat, protein. That stands for macronutrients. They're called macronutrients because they're the 3 nutrients we need the most of, hence macronutrients. And our body needs, I did not mean to stop sharing. Our body needs all 3 of them to function at its best. It is never about restriction. Restriction is not sustainable, ever, 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 ever. My go-to example is this. Right now, think about anything in the universe that you would like to think about, except an elephant balanced on a tiny little blue ball. Think about anything you want, anything, but do not think about an elephant balanced on a little tiny fluorescent blue ball. And what happens? Our brains want to do the thing we tell it not to. This is not a problem with you. This is not you not having willpower. This is how human beings are designed. We are not designed for restriction. So the key is to give yourself choice always. And that's what macros do. And just like a car runs on gas or electricity, fuel is the definition of a calorie is the amount of energy it takes to raise water 1 degree Celsius. If you look up the definition of a calorie, that's its definition. It is energy. Calories are literally energy. It's not some inspirational meme of, food is our fuel. It is literally what our body goes to for its energy. It's your fuel, your food. It's the most important relationship you have. And the you that shows up in this world is the most important thing you have, right? The you that is showing up for, if you have kids, if you have students, if you have coworkers, if you have a spouse, like that's everything. And what determines how you show up is how you're feeling your body. 1,000%. That's why this stuff is so important. Okay, we've made it. Oh man, I am so pumped, and I hope to see every one of you in here. What I've been hearing in this time of crazy quarantine is the biggest thing people are struggling with. Some people have the tools, right? They've been tracking macros. They know how to do it. They have at-home workouts. They know how to do it. But it's consistency. It's holding ourselves accountable while we are in this crazy new life of being home all day. And I'm putting myself in there. Like for years, I have been a consistent routine of getting my work done during the day, having a snack, physically going to the gym. It's my alone time. It's my sacred time. It's my put on my headphones and zone out time. And it has been tough to get used to living and breathing in my living room and working here and eating here and working out here. And what the best thing that we can do for that is have accountability, right? Because the key to this, like we talked about in this entire webinar, the key to this is consistency, because consistency builds habit. The you that exists in this world in every area of our life, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's health and fitness, you are a result of your habits. The thing that builds those habits is consistency. And the thing that keeps us consistent is accountability. So it goes accountability, consistency, habits. And it all starts with this accountability to consistency. So knowing that that is a struggle right now, I decided to do something to help out. And it is called the Consistency Crew. And I am so freaking pumped about it. And I've spent months on this, and now I get to share it with you guys first. Here's what the Consistency Crew is. It is 30 days. 30 days is a long ass time when it comes to holding yourself accountable for 30 days. It is a private group. Only people who sign up for this are in this group. This is not like if you did Mind Strong Reset, that was open to everyone. If you searched for it on Facebook, you could find it. This is not. If you search for Consistency Crew, you won't find it. It's only the people who register. It is a private group with me and you and your new fitness posse. If you need a group to go to vent, to ask questions, to support each other, to share your progress picture, this is that place. But it's not only that, it is a coaching ground as well. So in this group, every single day for 30 days, every day for 30 days, I am giving you a new exercise to do. Every week we get a new nutrition goal. We get a new mindset goal. And you're not just doing this on your own. Every single person who's in this group, we're doing the same thing together. So if we're all working on the same nutrition goal, if we're all working on the same mindset tool, we are in that group checking in with each other. There are daily check-ins, daily. So every day I'm in that group asking you, what's going on? How are you doing? What are your questions? What came up for you in your mindset work? And we are holding ourselves accountable, and we are checking in with each other. Every single Friday in that group, I'm going live. That's your time where we're going to check in. We're going to ask questions. We're going to see what you need help with in the coming week. I'm going to do a live coaching. So it'll be similar, not the topic of this webinar, obviously, but it'll be like this webinar in that group where we're digging in depth into something, coaching you on a topic and answering all your questions. You have support for me in that group. You can always tag me in your questions and your posts, all of it for 30 days. Like, you want to talk about building habits and holding yourself accountable, this is the group. It is kicking off May 11th, which is about 2 weeks, but it's opening as of today. You guys are the first people to hear about this. So you'll be the first ones in there. We're going to get the conversation started for the next 2 weeks to build hype around it, to get to know each other, to vent what we need to talk about, what we're hoping to get out of this group. And then when we kick off May 11th with our first trainings, we'll be hitting the ground running. It's $27. Let me be clear. It is not $27 a month. It is not $27 a week. It is a one-time 27 no-brainer to get you in the group, and you're in there. And you have all of this. You have daily workouts. You have weekly nutrition. You have weekly mindset. You have weekly coachings. You have unlimited support. You have daily checking, the whole shubiel, a no-brainer, because I want to support you during this time, and this is the best way I can do it. Our ultimate goal is to get out of this quarantine with new habits. And the way we're going to get there is by being consistent. And the way we're going to be consistent is by holding each other accountable. I see questions popping up. Woohoo! Sounds amazing. Yes, I am so freaking pumped about this. This is, I was like, I should videotape myself when I work on things from home, because I'm like dancing in my seat, like, oh my God, this is going to be great. It's going to be great. So when we are done with the webinar today, you're going to get an email from me that has a copy of this video. It'll be later today because I have to download the video. But it'll have a copy of this video. So you'll have everything we did today, and there'll be a link to the consistency crew. You guys are getting this first. I am not even emailing anyone else about this group until next week. So anyone that's on this webinar today, or who signed up for the webinar but didn't catch it live, you will be the only ones getting access to this group first before it goes live to the public. I cannot emphasize enough how much coaching you are getting for this is a 27 one-time payment. Like, it's nothing for how much you're going to get. And this is how we're going to walk out of this quarantine with healthy habits and a new posse. Like, who doesn't want a whole virtual workout crew right there at your fingertips to help each other, to support each other? A common question that I'm anticipating is, what level is this for? And the answer is everyone. The way the workouts are going to work is you have a choice. Every day I'm giving you a new exercise. So if you're new to moving, you guys know I am all about momentum, right? When we had the dairy conversation today, I talked about momentum and just start small. If you're new to moving, if you're new to working out, just do that one exercise. Just do that and your day is done. If you're more advanced and you're like, no, I need more than one exercise, then make them cumulative. So day 1, do that exercise. Day 2, do both exercises. Day 3, do all 3. We have 30 days of this. So you will have a plethora of exercises by the time these 30 days are up. You'll have more than you need to keep you going for however long this quarantine lasts. Same thing with nutrition goals. Focus on that one weekly goal, or make it cumulative. Add last week's goal to this week's goal. How you use this is up to you. There's going to be so much information in here that if you're new, it'll be just enough to get you going. If you're advanced, there's going to be tons for you to do. Okay, so look for that email coming from me later today. Let me stop my share so I can see, well, I can't see your faces, but you can see my faces. My faces, multiple. Okay, I think I'm back with you now. So if you have last minute questions, drop them, because we're getting ready to sign off. Look for that email coming from me today. Grab your spot. It's going public next week, but you guys get first dibs on that. And I'm super pumped about it. It's going to be so much face-to-face time of us and weekly lives, all that stuff. It's going to be awesome. All right, takeaways from today. Understand, you do not need to cut out all carbs, all fat. That is not the answer to this. That is one of the worst things you can be doing to your body, and that is how we lead to binging and caving. Big picture, if you have tried millions of diets before and you have failed and you have started and you have stopped and you've lost weight and you've gained weight, somewhere in your mind right now, when you get very honest with yourself, and this is what we're going to be doing with this mindset training in the Consistency Crew, we're going to dig deep and uncover your personal limiting beliefs. And first of all, it's reassuring. Sometimes we just need to normalize. We need to hear that we're not the only ones having these thoughts. And I promise you, from doing this for years, you are not. But somewhere in there, you have developed a belief that this is never going to work for you, or your whole family's overweight, so it's not destined, or there's something wrong that this just doesn't work for you, or you're eating healthy and it's just never going to stick. And I promise you that when you take the time to learn this skill, it's not even conscious work you're going to have to do. You're just going to look back one day and be like, oh my God, remember when I thought this wasn't for me? It's going to happen organically because you are learning how this works. You are taking control of your nutrition, and this is not hyperbole. This will transform your life by doing it. You can start by taking the math I taught you today and doing it on your own. You can start by getting coaching, even if it's, listen, it doesn't have to be with me. Macro coaching is typically not very expensive because it's limited work on the side of the coach. Like my job, I'll be completely transparent with you. When I do macro coaching, the bulk of my work is in the beginning. When I'm applying math and figuring out your numbers, that's a bulk of my work. What I do from there is give you access to me. So we check in, my clients can attend to this. We do attest to this. We do a formal check-in once a week, but they always have access to me to ask questions. And that's like answering it, I do this stuff all day, every day. So telling you like, here's a great suggestion of food. It's not a lot of work on the side of the coach. It's being there for you. It's supporting you. It's teaching you how to do it. So I say that to say, macro coaching with any coach is typically not very expensive. Mine, I can tell you, is the equivalent of $4 a day. It's nothing. It's an 8-week program. So you have that as an option. You have starting on your own as an option. How you do it doesn't matter to me. It matters to me in that I want you to be successful, but I say that to say this is not a sales pitch. The point of this webinar is not a sales pitch for my macro coaching. It's a sales pitch for do something. Take control of your health because it is literally one of the most important relationships you have in your life, and you will be flabbergasted. I love that word. You will be flabbergasted at how different you feel, how just transforming this is in terms of your energy, in terms of your confidence, in terms of your health. When you go to the doctor and you have that next check-in, you see all these things starting to fall in place. It all starts with your energy. We are made up of the food we eat. So taking control of this is so freaking important. Robin, can't wait to transform that voice in my head to be more of my coach and cheerleader. Yes, yes. And if you follow me on social media, you saw that episode 5 of my new podcast launched today. And it is literally called How to Be Your Best Coach. And the second part is, and stop being an asshole to yourself. That's 100% it. And listen, you've heard me say it a million times. We have to train our minds along with our bodies, right? It's the reason I say it a million times. Most lottery winners, if you study the statistics, blow their earnings within 5 years. And the reason is if they believe they're undeserving of money, if they believe that money is the root of all evil or it makes you selfish, you are going to do everything in your power to self-sabotage and get back to your level of homeostasis. And it is the same thing here. If you believe that you are destined to be overweight, if you think that it's superficial to track your nutrition, if you think that all skinny girls are bitches, or whatever belief you were brought up and is deep in here, you are going to self-sabotage back to your comfort zone, back to your level of homeostasis. That is why mindset training is so important. That's why in Consistency Crew, we're doing weekly mindset, and it's not just go on your own and journal. We're talking about it. We're digging deep into it because we have to uncover this shit if we're going to do the work to rewrite it. 100%. It is learning. The reason I name my company Mind Strong is 2 things. 1, we have to get educated. We have to train our minds. And 2 is exactly this. We have to do the mindset work along with the logistical work of training our bodies. That's how this stuff lasts. That's how it becomes a sustainable lifestyle. All right, my friends, I hope that you learned a lot today. I hope this was enjoyable for you. If you have questions that you think of after the fact and you want me to address, you are so welcome. Oh, Linda, I'm so glad that you were here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You can always email me. Whenever you get emails from me, by the way, I do not outsource my PR, my social media, anything like that. So it's always me. If any email you get, even if it's advertising a new blog post, you can just hit reply and it's me getting the email. I'll always respond to you. Unless you're being like some creepy dude, then I just hit delete and block you. But that's no one on here, I know for sure. You will get an email from me later today. It's going to have a copy of this video. It's going to have a link to Consistency Crew. Every single person that was on this webinar, I want to see you in Consistency Crew. You get first dibs. It is going to be 30 days of complete transformation for a no-brainer price. I love you guys. Look for my email later. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you next time.